Okay, so today what we're doing is we're going to do the first of a couple videos around the tones of Dann Huff. If you're not familiar with Dan, he was a big-time studio guitarist in the 80s. Eventually he had his own rock band called Giant for a little while. And then in the 90s he transitioned more to work in some of the new popular country music and eventually became a producer. And so he's worked with everybody from Michael Jackson to Taylor Swift, Peter Cetera, Michael Bolton, and Vertex Effects just did a great interview with him on their YouTube channel. You can see it here. I'll put the link to it in the description. You should go check it out. It's 2 hours. It's a great review through all the different albums he's worked on, the different tones he uses, kind of how he approaches different parts. It's just a great interview, and I would really encourage you to go check it out. But during the interview, for all the tones he was using to kind of recreate his rack from the 80s, he's using this plugin from S-Gear. And what I wanted to do today was, in this video, we'll go through kind of the S-Gear plugin and specifically the Dann Huff presets that they made available after the interview. And we'll kind of get to know his tone and really maybe understand the plugin for a little bit as well. And then in a separate video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that information along with a lot of the details he was giving in the interview about the gear he was using, and we'll go try to transfer this to the Quad Cortex and create a preset around his tones. So let's dig into the S-Gear plugin and we'll go from there. So here's the plugin. You can see it here. And so for today, what I'm going to use is this Strat style guitar. It's an HSS Strat, just like Dann Huff would play. This is actually a John Page classic Ashburn. So these were made in Japan. If you're not familiar with this line of guitars, John Page was one of the guys who started the Fender Custom Shop. Then he kind of left and started his own company. These classics were built in Japan. These are the more affordable ones. You can still pick these up used for, I don't know, $700, $800. These are good guitars for the money. If you're looking for kind of a good quality Strat style guitar at a good price, I would check one of these out. But we're going to use it today just for that kind of HSS Strat. And right now I'm on this Robin Ford style preset. It's using this Duke amp, which is kind of a Dumble. So the amps that are available, you've got the Duke, which is, like I said, kind of a Dumble style amp. You've got the Steeler, which is kind of a Marshall. You've got the Jackal, which I don't know what it's based on, but this is kind of a high gain amp. You've got the Wayfarer, which is based on a Mesa Boogie amp. And this is actually what Dann Huff was using in all his presets that we'll get to in a minute, which makes sense because if you look at his 80s rack, he was using a Mesa Boogie preamp in his rack as kind of his main amp tone shaper, so to speak. And then you've got a 57, which is kind of a tweed amp. So let's go ahead and go back to how this preset was set up initially. And you can see you've got a delay here. You've got what they call the Pro Convolver, which is kind of, these are your IRs. And they have a lot of built-in different impulses available. You can always load in your own as well. You've got different positions and different mics you can use for each. These these are your different reverbs. For some reason, they have 2 reverbs on this one, so it sounds pretty good. I'm not going to complain. The other rack device you have is what's called a mod thing, where you can have a chorus or a flanger, but we're going to, and obviously Dann Huff uses that on his quite a bit for his clean tones. We'll hear that in a second, but here's this kind of Robin Ford preset. So actually a nice kind of tone. Nice touch sensitivity to it. One thing I've noticed is the presets don't react super well to the guitar volume. It just kind of gets quieter. So that's one thing to keep in mind. It's not reacting like an amp would to your guitar volume. But let's go ahead and check out a couple of the other ones just to see. Here's one, Unchained Flange. I'm assuming this is a Van Halen kind of thing. So you can see it's using the flanger. It's got a delay, all of it before the this tremendously is one that I like. This is actually a very kind of Dan Huff kind of lead. Maybe a little dry, but. So here's the Marshall. Let's see what else we got. We'll try Stadium Shred. Luke lead. Oh, this is the Jackal. The other thing you can do is they have a few pedals you can add in on the front. So you can add in a drive. So this is, I believe, is modeled kind of after a tube screamer. The other thing you can add in is there's a compressor. Again, you can reorder these if you want to. And then there's a wah. I'm assuming you can connect this wah to an expression pedal or something. So you can mix and match several things. There's a lot of flexibility here. So some fun tones here. And again, we're not going to go through everything. We're focusing on Dan Huff here today, but you can download this like I did for a 10-day trial. And I think you can get a lot of good tones out of it. So let's go ahead and switch over to the Dan Huff presets, which are in their own bank. And we'll start with the chord clean. You can see he's using the Mesa. He's running it into a 1x12. He's got a reverb into a chorus into a delay. And it sounds like this. So real sparkly clean. You can already hear kind of the beginnings of that 80s tone. Here it is with a compressor in front of it. This one is the same, except it's just changing the delay to use this sync mode on the delay. So it could be what he's doing is he's syncing that with a MIDI track. Let's go to the signature clean. So this is double chorus. So now I think we're getting into those kind of really kind of chorusy 80s kind of thing. You can see, if we scroll down here, we've got two choruses running here. So it's interesting. So for this double chorus, you've got your amp and your cab. You've got a reverb first, then you're chorusing, then you're doing a delay, and then you're chorusing again. And you can see the first chorus, it's real kind of, the tone is cranked, not too deep, but the rate is high. And then the second chorus, he's got the delay a little greater. The mix is about the same. Tone's also very sparkly, but way more depth, but lower rate. Just some fun stuff. It'll be interesting to try to convert this into the quad cortex. Let's go to the overdrive. So for the overdrive rig, he's keeping the compressor, he's keeping the mesa, but you can see he's moved it into the lead channel. He's got a 4x12 on, he's still chorusing it, and has delay and reverb on the end. So tons of delay on that. Maybe it's more the reverb, this heavenly room. Man, that's got a lot of wetness to it. But that mesa, it's funny. You know, that mesa does the sparkly clean. And it also does this. That's kind of a nasty tone. And then he's got this dark overdrive, which is taking away the chorus. Doesn't seem to be changing the settings on the Wayfarer very much. And the biggest change is you're losing the chorus and you're losing the 4x12. You're just using a 1x12. those effects just go forever. So it'll be interesting to try to mimic this on the quad cortex. It'll be interesting to figure out the right amp to do this mesa. We may end up using the Johns amp, I don't know. But we'll get into that. We'll try to figure it out in the next video, what's the right amp to use there. I like the, the sparkly cleans. I'm pretty sure we can do this. That'll be similar to the kind of the 80s studio tone I've already done, but we'll try to, make sure we're hitting some of that Dan Huff-ness of it, if that's a word. So I'll get to work on that, trying to convert this into the quad cortex. If you're interested in this S-Gear plugin, I think that's on sale right now for like $90. So not super expensive. A lot of versatile stuff in here. There's a lot of different amps to choose from and a lot of good effects. There's a lot of tweakability. You can see, just on the amp, you've got the EQ, you've got sag and high cut, and there's a built-in tremolo. You've got all these different settings, and that's just this amp, and there's 4 other amps to choose from. You've got pretty good configurations on the IRs, and like I said, you can use your own IRs for this, or you can use the built-in cabinets that are there. They've got a set of impulses, or you can go straight DI. Reverbs, you've got a good number of reverbs to choose from here. You can't even see them all, it's going off the screen here. So a lot of options there. The modulation, I'd like to see a kind of a doubler or a harmonizer kind of capability here, but maybe you can kind of get there with the chorus. I'll have to see. And then obviously you've got a good delay here, whether you want to be tube or analog. You've got mono stereo, tap, all these kinds of things. So I think there's a lot of options here, and I look forward to trying to recreate this on the quad cortex. So again, if you're interested in this plugin, go to this website here. It's this scuffamamps.com. The product's called S-Gear. You can see right now they're running a sale that runs through next week. So go check this out. I think it sounds pretty good. Again, it's, you're not going to get the same amount of amp feel that you'll get from the quad cortex or some of the Neuro DSP, but it's pretty affordable and there's a lot of flexibility here. And so I think if you're looking to dip your toe into using plugins, this isn't a bad place to start. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting, and thanks for watching.